Okay, we are live now. Thank you everybody to come to the Meet the Filmmakers of International Competition Program 2, Craft International Animation Festival 2021. Here coming to this conversation is filmmakers, 4 filmmakers from the films that are in the program. We have Anita Kili here from Mother Didn't Know, and we also have Corey Francis Parks from Foreign Exchange. We also have poet Giuliana Danza. I hope I pronounced your name good. From Poetic of Clay, and also we have a colleague of Giuliana, Jackson Abachatu, to also help us with this conversation. And finally, we have filmmakers of Password to the Stars, Adele Zegedi. Is that correct, Adele?
Yes, yeah. It's hard to pronounce.
Oh yeah, okay. I hope it's not so bad.
No, it's really
I
great.
mentioned. Okay. Also welcome for people in the Zoom meeting, and people in the YouTube streaming. So thank you for coming. I'm very happy to have all of you. First of all, your film, and then you to come and then attending this meeting to share your experience with our audience of how you directed or how you produced the film. I would like to open this conversation by asking, this is maybe a basic question, but we're really curious about why did you make the film? How was the story of each of these beautiful films? From at the very beginning, why did you decided to make make your film? Maybe we can start with Anita.
Okay. Yeah. It's sun here now, so I can move my machine a little bit. Maybe that is better. When I was a child, I just wanted to make things with my hands. And when I get older, then I really realized how wonderful animation is to tell things that can be difficult to tell in another way. So I had made a film, Angry Man, many years ago. And some people said that that was only for special psychology people. But then I realized that difficult feelings is, of course, about life and for everybody. And this last year, I felt it is so much young people that has a big depression, even they, special here in the Nordic country where they shouldn't be depressed, because I mean we are so lucky that is living here and we have so much. So I wanted to make a very open film about depression, just to start to talk about it, because for someone it can be a very little depression, and for someone it can be really, really big. So the idea was actually just to make a open film start to talk about depression, so that people could put their own stories into it. And since I'm living on a farm with cows and with this big silo that is also very dangerous, then you are on the bottom, not only psychisk but also physisk. So that is why it's happened to be from a farm. Yes.
Wow. Yes, that's very surprising topic to put in a character of a young girl. I was very surprised with the choice of the character, and now I know why, because it's happening more and more, the depression for young people.
And my
Okay.
daughter cut off her hair when she was very young, and I thought she was depressed, but it was just because her mother had her grandmother had a hairdress place, so she wanted to try all this, but I put too much in that. And I also have friends that don't even put, they are not even dare to cut their own children's hair because they are afraid that the children will do that on themselves. And I think that is the best way to tell someone that you have a problem, not to cut themselves, but to cut the hair, because that comes up again. So I also felt that was nice. So it is, the hair is actually the wool from our sheeps. So it was also nice to find different materials, because I love to find materials close to here.
Okay. Thank you, Anita. It was a very powerful start, quite heavy. And then I will be back with more of the film Mother Didn't Know. But now let's move on to Corey here from Film Foreign Exchange. Corey, your film is very interesting, especially for this part of the world. We are not used to this kind of film. There is an experimental element in it, but also at the same time, I can feel the narration. Sorry, I hope you understand it. I can yeah, I can feel the narration that you are trying to bring here, but I'm not quite can put it in words. So how would you say about it, and why did you decided to create this film?
Yeah, I think the narrative that's in there maybe is best explained starting from like how I got the idea for the film. A few years ago, my mother-in-law passed, or my grandmother-in-law passed away, and when she was a girl, she traveled a lot with her family, and so when we were cleaning out, her place where she lived, we found in the back of a drawer, we found a lot of old banknotes from like different countries, and they were just really beautiful and really old, and I'd never really seen them before. And they sort of, I animate with sand, and I animate things very close up. And so I was looking at the details on the bills, and I was thinking, what is this story for all of these countries? Why is this person on this note, on this money? Who had this money before she had it, and where did she get it? And it made me think just about how like currency sort of flows across borders in unusual ways, and how that represents kind of people moving around the world. And so in looking at the tiny little details, I wanted to find out, like who else has this money that they've kept from, if they've moved from another country or if they've traveled to another country. And so I asked on Facebook and on Instagram for people to send me their extra money. And so people sent me money and they sent me like, I had like from over 50 countries, people sent me just like one note that they had left. And I started to see some connections when I looked at it all together. And I started to see kind of this web of interesting stories that didn't really make like it wasn't supposed to be a clear narrative, like it wasn't really clear to me, but I felt like there was so many layers and so many like interconnections in the way that there's like so many flowers on banknotes and so many buildings and so many animals and things like that. And so I wanted to kind of bring them all together in this in these landscapes, and then bring the viewer and the audience through the landscape so that they could discover what they wanted to discover. And I think everyone from any country, you know, might see the film in a different way because they're coming from, you know, their background, as opposed, and you might notice different details. So it's the sort of film that can be watched many, many times. Like, you know, like, I mean, I've watched it thousands of times making it, and I always notice new little things, you know, and new connections, and think about things in a different way. So I think it's really interesting to talk to people who watch the films and see what they notice and what details, what kind of story they can pull out of it, because it's deliberately not meant to be a straight narrative that's easy to understand. You have to like really think about it and observe.
I'm curious of how many countries did they that do you know, or do you counting how many countries
Yeah,
the banknotes came for your.
I think it was 38 countries for the banknotes, and then also the sand, because there's sand in the film, and the sand comes from different countries as well. And I've been collecting sand for a long time because I animate with sand. And so now people also send me sand. They don't just send me money, they send me sand. So the sand is from lots of different countries as well. So I would say there's at least 50 countries represented between the sand and the money in the film.
Okay, wow. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask about the sands too, because it's interesting the way you use sands, not really from the usually from the shadow of it, but now you are more exploring the textures, the colors of sands. Do you have any reason for that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, sand is so beautiful and it's so small. And when I started animating with sand, I animated, you know, with a light table, and it was using, you know, the shadows and the backlight. But then when I started to collect sand from different areas and people started to send me sand, I just noticed the differences in, you know, some sand is pure white, and some sand is made of little shells, and other sand is black and volcanic, and it has little crystals in it, and there's like purple sand and pink sand and all sorts of beautiful colors. And to me, looking closely at the sand, it's sort of a metaphor for humanity. It's a metaphor for our diversity, for our like the beauty of an individual, even though you lose the individual in the pile of sand, right? If you're on a beach, it seems like you just think of it as sand, but when you look at every individual, they're all unique and beautiful, and they have their own story from geology of how they're made. And so that metaphor to me is very strong. And so my recent work is sort of dealing with that metaphor of thinking of the individual in the broader landscape of humanity and where we fit in. And I mean, now I'm thinking about geology and like the earth and deep time and crazy things like that. So it can go a long way. So that's why I'm so obsessed with like the tiny little grains.
Okay, the curiosity can be go on and go on, but maybe now we move to Juliana from Film Poetic of Clay. Okay, Juliana, I was curious about the topic of the film. So it comes from what is the, so I don't know in this part, I don't know if it is me or many people in our region don't really aware of the value of widows of living husbands. Can you tell us what is it? Is it a novel or is it a film? And why did you decided to create a movie, a clay animation version of it?
Hi everyone. I apologize for my words. My English is not so good, but Jackson will help me. And I will talk in Portuguese, and he's translate for you, okay? Because it's impossible to me. Sure. I understand the question, okay?
If it's more comfortable for you, then would be better.
Yeah, sorry for that, but everything will be okay, I think.
Thanks to Jackson.
Jackson, eu acho que a gente pode falar da história do Vale, então da importância da argila aqui em Minas Gerais. E você consegue falar um pouco da história dos maridos que abandonaram as esposas, e aí isso, né, foi construído aqui em Minas, e aí a cerâmica se tornou um ponto de referência onde a gente mora.
Juliana is telling that the topic of the film starts with the region here in the state that we live. It's Minas Gerais. So in the north of the region of the state, there is that's called Vale do Jequitinhonha, is the name of the region, and there is a lot of women that separated from the husbands, and they started to make a lot of production, manufactured artisanal products of clay. So it becomes a very traditional production of this kind of art. So it becomes popular in these states, and about all of the country it becomes important and very, very good production of this kind of artisanal productions manufactured. So it starts a little bit just to get this overall of the material of the clay that's important in this region, and about this kind of women that it was a lot of difficult stories. So it becomes a little bit strong for the start that Juliana started to think about the screenplay, just the start of it.
Yes, it's interesting about the shape. It's about the shapes of the characters. I mean, it's interesting that you didn't choose to use a human shape. Would you share some reason behind that?
Ok. O Jackson, você pode completar o que você achar necessário, tá? Fica à vontade. Então, com relação a gente ter escolhido, né, utilizar a criatura, é porque isso é um desafio, né? Acho que a gente pode falar sobre isso, que é um desafio para o animador trabalhar com formas mais simples e tentar dar personalidade a essa criatura, né? E conseguir passar essa questão da emoção, de transpor dificuldades e conseguir superar as coisas difíceis da vida e lidar, né, com essas questões.
It's difficult to the filmmaker to make a character that is simple. You know, that we try in this movie to get a character that is not human, is not male, is not female. You don't know what it is, who is this character. So it was the challenge to make this kind of neutral character, but it represents. You can get the feeling that that humans have. So the difficulties, the problems that this character has to pass. So that was the idea, to make a character that it's you don't know who is this kind of character, but we try to do it in a simple representation, almost minimalist, something like that.
Yes, yes, because I think it worked, because when I watched the film, I really feel like it is human without it have to be looks like human, and also all the gesture, and most importantly, the experience of that character is similar with the experience that many people have, like being followed by something or someone. So it's interesting that without even in human shaped character, we just can relate our experience or our what we heard with the character. Okay. Thank you, Kiliana. I will be back to you. Now let's hear from Adele, from film Password to the Stars. Adele, your film is, where is Adele? Oh, on, very big, okay. So your film is, I feel, I don't know, you can confirm it. I feel it's very personal. It's like I'm inside your journal or diary. So I'm curious if it is really comes from your own poetry or own experience or anything else. Can you tell us about it?
Yes. So the film is basically the visualization of a poem that I wrote. And this poem is based on, well, yeah, mostly on my diary entries and some notes that I took about my my atmosphere, because I created the film when I moved back to my hometown when the whole pandemic situation just started. And I visited my hometown quite rarely in the last few years. So it was a new experience to look at the familiar places with a new eye, from a new perspective. So I visited all the places where I spent my childhood, and I took notes on my sketchbook, and also I find my old diaries as well. And eventually, I just crafted all the thoughts that I found interesting together and write a poem. And this was the basis of the visuals. But also, since I'm a filmmaker, so I thinking about thinking in visuals as well. So the visuals and the text reflected to each other and influenced each other. And so it was a very entwined process how the film sort of made itself. So yeah, and it was a really interesting journey for me because so it was very nostalgic to look at old notes from myself, and also try to understand what I was meaning at the time when I wrote them. And also I find my drawings from my childhood as well. And it was really interesting to look at them with an eye which is more trained and more with an adult eye, and try to figure out that what I was thinking when I draw this. Obviously, this wasn't so conscious artworks, and this is why it was really interesting for me.
Okay, thank you, Adele. Now, before we move to my next question, I want to check if we have question from the audience. Audience, do you have questions? Wait, Zoom? No? YouTube? No, okay. Now I can keep asking. So, well, each of you have used different materials. And now is the question about how you make the film. Would you share with us how long did it takes to make your films, and then how many people involved, and regarding the materials or the techniques, what is it you find so special about the materials or the techniques that you use? Maybe we can start with Anita again.
Okay, then I will just show you the multiplan stand that is here. And I have been working with multiplan stands since I met Yuri Norstein in '89, and since that has been my passion. And I always find it nice to try new materials. So for the first time, for example, now we made it with a puppet skeleton inside the body, but not the faces. And that is because I wanted, for example, the dress to be shined through with the underlight, because since the title of the film, Mother Didn't Know, and some people think maybe it's something bad sexual that has happened to the girl, and it may be, because that is the worst that can happen to a child, I think. And then I want it to be so I can look through it. But actually, it is a lot of different materials all the way. We use feathers from the birds and a lot of wool. You can see this is the real knife, and we make very small, well, different. But we also have for the mouse, we have the musk ox wool around it, because it is a tiny, tiny wool that is make the shine. So it is. Sometimes I also was thinking, oh, and I have to tell the story and not only play around with all these materials, because it is just it's a gift to do the animation when you can just collect all things. But it's a multiplan layers, everything usually. But it is a mixed film actually, because it's also a little puppet in some places where it was very hard to put it on the multiplan table. Yes.
Wow, thank you, Anita. I think this is the first time in this kind of forum, and this is also the beauty of online meeting, that filmmakers bring us to their workshop actually. So thank you. Seeing those sets, it really makes me remember of which scenes it was when I was watching for the film. I was also asking, what is it the beauty of using the technique? You're using stop motion, but that with the specific how is it skeleton or the specific form, and what is it the beauty of stop motion that you find that you think people must know?
I just love that you have the texture in it. And of course, I mean, if it's sand or all what you other has been using, it is a lot of these, what I may come from the nature, and nature is some of the most beauty that exists. So we can't make copies of that, but we can use it in another way, in a way. Mm.
And also, how long did you make the film, and how many people have involved?
We used 2 years to animate it and to make all the puppets and all these things. And we were most 4 people on the group. But then there's a musician after that, and someone that was in just a couple of days doing some of the last work. Mm. So, but it took 4 years to raise the money because I was sick meantime, but then I get again healthy. Mm.
So the film was funded independently?
Yes, I have a studio hit Troll film that I established in 94. And I've been doing cutout animation mostly since that, with difficult themes. And I was so shy when I was young, so I decided that I need to be my own boss and then make my own studio. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Anita. Now we move to Cory. Cory already mentioned about the materials and the technique. I think, yeah, it's obviously a stop motion. And can you tell us more about how you make it? Because it was not very detailed. It was only the materials. So would you share with us how did you make it, and how many people involved, and how long?
Yeah. So with the combining the sand and the money was the main challenge of how to get them to like work together. And so some of the shots are done, like I also have a multiplane. You can kind of see it back there, but it's very small because I'm working so small. And so sometimes I use like microscope slides to build a little tiny multiplane, or just like small pieces of glass. But I'm shooting, you can see my camera is on the ceiling and it's pointing down, and then there's the computer and things. So I have, I work both with the physical materials, but then also take them into the computer and do more compositing and more animation in After Effects. And so I would animate the sand with stop motion. And sometimes I'm combining the sand and the money in the same frame on the camera. And so like the shot is finished then. But more often I would scan the banknotes, and then I would kind of cut them up in digitally and then animate them with After Effects to get more, to combine things in new ways and get all of the layers and things that you see. And so and then compositing sand into those shots as well. So that was so it's sort of a mix of digital and physical, and there's and I approach the digital animation similar that I would with a regular stop motion. So thinking in layers and thinking about constructing puppets and that type of thing. I started with the music. The music is by a composer, Alexandra Gardner, who's a wonderful composer that I met at an artist residency. And so we collaborated on creating the music, and that provides the structure for the film. And so then I kind of like animated timed to the music. And I had 4 animation assistants, and then I had my husband is my technical director, and so he was very helpful with keeping all of the equipment running and getting the cameras working and all that sort of stuff. And then we went and did like sound design at a sound studio, and like yeah, so I think there was maybe 6 or 7 people total involved in the film, but for animation, I did most of the animation, and then I had some assistants helping with the production, like the preparation of the the scans and the After Effects animation. They did a really awesome job. They were my students, which is amazing, and so I loved working with them.
I see. It's interesting because at the same time you're working with them and you're also passing your knowledge and new experience, and you know they involved in a film. Okay. Now we go to Juliana. Okay.
Ok.
Yeah, Juliana, can you tell us how did you make the film? How many people involved? We know Jackson is involved. Maybe you can tell in which division did he involve, and then how long did it take to create Poetic of Clay? And why clay animation? What is it the beauty about clay animations that you think people should know?
Jackson, acho que a gente pode falar que a escolha da argila foi porque eu comecei a trabalhar com esse material desde muito cedo e eu gosto da possibilidade de trabalhar com a plasticidade, né, a possibilidade de mudar esse material e de também poder transformar através da queima, né, a gente ter uma outra coisa depois que a gente leva ao forno. Eu vou falar aos poucos e você vai traduzindo para mim, que eu acho que é melhor.
Well, the choice of the clay is because it's a material that Juliana is used to work a lot, so many years. So it's a material that she likes a lot, and it's flexible. It becomes a lot of possibilities. You can work with the clay wet and dry, and you will use the burning to make another process of the clay. So you can use to make the transformations. It's very flexible. So you can use it to a lot of possibilities to create the characters and backgrounds and this kind of thing.
Aí a gente pode falar que eu gosto do stop motion porque em cada trabalho que a gente vai fazer, em cada curta, né, em cada trabalho, a gente pode trabalhar com materiais completamente diferentes, né, então a gente já trabalhou com, não sei, crochê, tricô, recorte, e aí nesse filme a gente resolveu se aprofundar completamente na utilização da técnica da argila, e aí você pode falar que não só no visual, mas na música também.
And the nice of the stop motion is that you can use a lot of materials, different materials. So Juliana also worked with a lot of other kinds of techniques and materials, wool and objects and papers. So in this short film, we decided to go deep into the clay world. So we use a lot of different kinds of clay, different colors of clay. We use some scenes with the clay wet that you can use it more to, it's more flexible. You can use it to some kind of animations in some scenes that it becomes more flexible. And we use the dry clay for some scenes of backgrounds that you can see that is very dry because it was this kind of a region in Minas Gerais in the north that is very dry. You can see also these fences in the ground. So we use this to make this contrast with the dry and the wet clay. So we use also the clay in the soundtrack. I worked in animation. And also I made the soundtrack of the short film. So we record in the studio pieces of clay. We used some instruments that is kind of tubes, tuned in notes. So we used it in some part of the soundtrack. We recorded some dry and wet clay, the possibilities to make the sound effects, and a little bit in the music also, mixed with some other instruments, but it was very nice that we used this also in the soundtrack.
E aí eu não estava muito preparada, porque o filme é de 2019 e as peças já estão guardadas há muito tempo. Mas aí só porque você pediu, Jackson, eu trouxe aqui, a gente pode mostrar. Então a gente primeiro esculpiu as peças em massinha, né? Daí a gente fez os moldes. E aí a gente estampou as figuras em vários tons diferentes, né? Com escalas também diferentes, então você pode falar das esculturas queimadas, enfim, de coisas que a gente utilizou.
So we made this process to modeling first the characters, and then to make and also different sizes of the character, and then to put into the clay. And it was a lot of testing process to make a different burn to try to get to the final model that we wanted. But it was interesting to work different colors and different sizes. And in the process of the animation, we used also a multiplane stand that was similar to Anita. It was nice to see her studio, because we used a similar multiplane stand. So we used the pieces of clay and the different layers of background. It was just basically two characters, the main character and the other creature that has no name. But we use a different material with that one. Also, we model in clay, but we try to use another pieces of different, more solid material to do the segments of the creature, kind of a snake, a strange snake. And it was nice to mix a little one, yes.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Juliana and Jackson. Now we move to Adele. Yes, Adele. You were drawing, so some of it is your childhood drawings. Is that true? Did I get it right?
No. It wasn't. It was just inspired by them.
Okay.
Little elements, and also so it's not it's a black and white movie, and so when I was a child, I obviously used more colors, so it was sort of like I don't know how to say, an artistic choice to show that it's another perspective that I'm showing now, because it's changed the colors. And also, so it's not a too happy story that the poem tells, and it also reflects this, that so the colors are faded, and the whole world is sort of like a lack of color, so it's not so colorful. Yeah, this is the point. And but yeah, I created a film on paper, and it was well, my first experimentation with hand-drawn animation, because I made this movie as a student film, so I'm still in school, and it's not my graduation film, so it was really interesting to like play with different techniques and find out that which one fits better to the topic. And I chose to animate it on paper because for me it's reflected on that it was inspired by my diary entries, and also it's like seems like loads of sketchbook papers after each other, which tells the story. So it's sort of like the visualized version of my diary entries. Yes. And also because I made it at home and I didn't have any proper equipment, I used my phone to capture the sequence. So it was a super low budget film. And it's like good to know that if someone wants to make a film and have a smartphone, they can, because you just download an app and draw something and can capture it. So it was really good to like experiment with the techniques as well. Yeah, but in the future, I hope I can make movies with a little bit bigger budget and experiment with bigger things, because it also like make limitations on the quality of the project. But it was good to observe that what I can do with this. So yeah.
Yes, when I watch the film, I cannot tell it is created by a cell phone, and we look forward for your graduation film. If it is not yet your graduation film, then we look forward for it. Okay. Oh, it's a good question. So someone asked, what happened with the materials, with the puppets, with everything after the filmmaking? I think I saw in social media, Cory created an exhibition or join an exhibition, or I don't know, maybe tell us what happened with the characters, with the puppets. What do you do with them? Okay. From Anita again. Oh, is that a frame? Oh, you still mute. You still to activate your microphone.
Yeah, for every film I make, I made pictures, 3-dimensional pictures, so that I can put them into it. So, but I haven't done it for this film yet. But for example, for Angry Man, I put I have 12 pictures from that film, so that but that was in black frames, because I don't know if you can see it. I just take my computer around. But it's very nice to have, because then it's easier to go around and talk about the film. And you can also just take away the glass. For example, this is a character, the back side. That can be also as interesting as to see the front side sometimes, to see how they are mixed together with the very, very tiny small threads of I can show you, for example, the very, very little mice that is made of 24 pieces, I think, with, I think it's 0.1 milli thick thread. And so I tried to make these pictures so that you can also see how things are made in a way. But of course, then between one figure to the next figure is only some centimeters, but in the real world, it is 2 meters between the lowest and the highest. But it's nice to keep it. That is also what is nice to do the animation with real materials. I think it's easier to keep them than all the sand pictures, I guess, because that is maybe destroyed. But maybe you even make some. Yes. Okay. Thank you. That is my answer.
Thank you, Anita. They are all well preserved, and I hope they will stay like that. Okay. Now we move to Cory. What happened with the materials?
So some of the money I sent back to the people who gave it to me because it's like their memory of a place. Some of it people just let me keep, and so I have a whole collection of it now that I can take to festivals or show to people or use in other projects maybe. The sand when you use it, you're destroying every frame when you make a new frame, right? So it's so some of it I can like put back in the jar and I can use it again, and sometimes it gets all mixed up with other stuff, and so it's sort of a different type of sand because it's all mixed up. But it stays in my studio, and maybe I'll use it someday. I did have an exhibition this summer, and foreign exchange was part of that exhibition, and so I actually created some new collages, some physical collages out of some of the banknotes that I had. And so it was really an interesting thing because for the film, mostly I just cut up the banknotes digitally, right? So I didn't actually destroy them. But then for this exhibition, I actually made physical collages you can hang on the wall. So I did cut them up and I did like actually destroy them and put them together in different ways. And the collages were sort of inspired by different parts of the film, but they looked a little different than what was in the film. And it was really, I really loved doing that because it was even a little more physical than doing it on the computer. And so for some of those things, like, I did kind of, they're now framed artwork and they hang in my house. Maybe somebody will buy them. I don't know, but probably not. So there, yeah. But I think one of the reasons I like working so small is that there's not a lot of stuff and waste. And I mean, I have a lot of stuff. My studio is a mess, but it's a little more manageable than big sets and things like that, because then you have all of these artifacts and like, what do you do with them? It's hard to throw them away, but I think a lot of the times we just have to, but yeah, so I like to collect those things, but I try to collect the small things so they don't take up too much space.
Okay. Thank you, Cory. Now we move to Poetic of Clay. Yeah, what happened with all the materials? Can you tell us?
Eu não tenho um espaço muito grande aqui, então arquivar os materiais é um problema. Uma parte do que sobra dos filmes eu acabo descartando e eu guardo peças principais e algumas também são usadas para distribuir de presente. Pode falar, Jackson, depois eu vou mostrar algumas peças para eles.
Juliana said that she don't have too much space in the house, so sometimes in other films the materials is wasted, but usually she keeps the mainly characters, the mainly pieces of the film, and sometimes it's small pieces that it's easy to keep. Can go on.
E aí, quando eu comecei a trabalhar com stop motion, assim que eu formei na faculdade, eu não tinha muita noção dos materiais e de como conservar os materiais. Então, aconteceu de algumas vezes eu perder mesmo, né, por não saber como manter. Então, aqui está a boneca, né, do primeiro filme que eu fiz na escola, e ela não pode mais ser movida, mas eu consegui conservar depois, aprendendo um pouco a como manter, né, como conservar essa espuma mesmo ela não tendo mais movimentação.
This puppet that Juliana shows is the puppet of her graduation film in the college. It was, but she said that in that time she didn't knew too much about the conservation of some materials, and for example, this puppet you can move any part of it because it can be broken, this kind of thing. So with the time and the experience and the production of other films, we start to get the ways to conservation about some materials and the best ways to do it.
Até porque agora, de alguns anos para cá, tem sido importante arquivar algumas peças dos filmes, porque costumam haver exposições, né, em museus, enfim, na entrada dos cinemas. Então eu tenho pensado mais nessa questão da preservação e estudado mais em como manter a longo prazo essas peças, né, para durarem.
Juliana said about the importance of the preservation of the pieces, because you can show in exhibitions and something that sometimes it's years later of the short film, so it's nice. I think also it's important to preserve something of the physical material of these short films. And in this kind, just to complement in this kind, the kind of in Poetic of Clay, because we use a lot of dry clay, the pieces is broken almost in the same time of the animation. So it was impossible to preserve something like the backgrounds, this kind of thing. But also the character, a lot of the pieces of the characters and the sizes, the different sizes, Juliana kept it. So it was nice. But another parts of the film, it's like impossible to preserve and to keep. Something more, or you?
Não, eu acho que é isso. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Juliana. And now Adele. So, what happened with the drawings?
Well, these are slim papers, so it's a more space-saving procedure. And well, I just keep them in a really big folder because they are not, so it was like sort of like these big pictures, I mean frames of the film, and there is around 1,000 of them because it's not a too long film, but it's, I don't know, it's like another type of diary or sketchbook that I have, and they are like in my desk, and sometimes I just look at them, and it's a good memory sort of. So yeah, but I was thinking about to like use them for an installation because I've got a school project that I'm working on now, and it's about like experimenting with installations, and I find it like challenging to combine moving image, which is projected on a surface, and like installations which are more like objects in a physical space. So yes, I don't know that it will happen. I mean the combination of this film and the installation project, but it's like, it's good to think about these things and how can I reuse them. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Adele. I'm checking question. Okay, nothing in YouTube also. No? Okay, so I'm going with my next question is how is so far how the audience of this film accepting your film, like for example, Anita, your film is touching a very important issue, and you also said that you did that because so many girls or young people got depressed. And is the film already shows in your nation, and how do people react to to the film so far?
I haven't got many reactions so far because of the corona. I have actually shown it only one time for children when I was there, and that is in my youngest son class. And then we talked quite much about it, and
how is the children thinking about it? Because it's interesting.
Yes, they were talking about how they want to take care of each other and try to talk more about if someone is sad and try to ask again and again what is wrong and so on. But they were also very into the technique. Earlier film I made, it was more design in a way. Now it was in my mind too much similar to the real life, but that is what the young people like most. Oh, it looks real. So that is also interesting to see how you want to make maybe a more artistically film, but because this is more made in a way that special young girls, this was about 12, 13, 14 years old girls, then they like it more if it is. So that was also interesting for me to see, because it's that is also deal with if they take in the story somehow. And it was also interesting that because in the film we are suddenly in a forest, and the forest change into some creatures, and in my head that she's now going into the death, or and some people, for example, said that in Norway we call, if you are not nice on the phone with each other, we call it net troll. And they thought it was the trolls from how young people are not writing nice things about each other on the net. So that was a new nice. I like very much when they come up with new ideas, because this film is not so very clear. So it is really nice to hear. But I only done it once because of Corona with children, and that is. But of course, it's also a film for grown-ups. But it is nice now, actually, that we also get questions from the audience, because that is not so often we get that.
Yes, we realized that ever since pandemic, this kind of meeting of Q&A with filmmakers, between filmmakers and audience, is one of the aspects of the festival that got eliminated in some, even in some of biggest festival. So we wanted to create it in craft, and also I find it even if it was only once you got reaction, but I think it's also a very important reaction, because children are the reason you created this film, right? So yeah.
But before I have, I don't know if you can see it, but there is a box on wheels, a quite big box. No, it's maybe very, very dark, but there's a big box here that I used to take around in schools, and then I put all the materials from a film in that. And so, because in Norway we have a tradition that after film we can go and visit schools and talk about everything. So that is also back to the other questions, that is one of the reasons I kept all the materials, because then you can use it for really how to show at schools. We physically goes there. And so we will see now when the pandemic is over, then maybe I will go and talk more about it, because I used to do that with another film about when father hit the son, now the mother things, and also about war, and now it is about the present. So it's not, so it's a bit difficult to travel, because you never know what comes up of very difficult questions, but that is also the goal, of course, with the film. on this film as well.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Anita. Now, to Corey, you use banknotes as your materials. Have anyone ever come up with or have take the films politically?
So has anyone like interpreted the film politically?
Yes. Yes.
I think, yes, I mean, I think that there's certainly, it's unavoidable to think about that when you're thinking about nationalities, nationalism, like what the pictures that we put on banknotes. But I think, as I mentioned before, one of the things I love about the film is that it can be interpreted in different ways depending on who watches it and what they see, right? And so some people will see very political themes because I have some colleagues at my university that teach political science, and they see politics everywhere in the film, and other people who are historians, and so they see it from a historical perspective, or from and then people who have immigrated to the United States see it as like their story of immigration, or and people who travel a lot see it as something about travel. And so it's I think that I have shown it at a lot of festivals, and I haven't had as much opportunity to talk to audiences because of the coronavirus, but I did at the beginning. The film, I did go to a couple festivals, and I had some really nice conversations with people, kind of finding out, what did they think? And for me, that's kind of why I make films like this, is that it's really fun to talk to people and find out what they see in it, because I might have, my ideas of what the film means, but I'm a big believer that, like, when you make a film and you put it out into the world, like, you lose control of it and it's not yours anymore. It belongs to the people who see it. And so they can interpret it however they like. And that's really fun to hear different perspectives than what might be in my head when I make it.
Okay, thank you, Corey. Just out of curiosity, I might miss it, but is there any Indonesian banknotes in it?
No, I did not have a friend from Indonesia at that time. So maybe I have to make a sequel, and you can send me some Indonesian banknotes.
Okay, that's okay. I was just curious, and I was like, okay, did I catch something familiar? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Thank you. Next, to Juliana. So, as you mentioned before, so the film is about your region, right? And the art or the specialty art that developed very well in your region. Have you screened this film to people of your region, and do you know how they react on your film?
Ao contrário da experiência, né, da Anita, que está começando a passar, né, a rodar com o filme nos festivais, nós estreamos em 2019 e o filme já rodou um número interessante de festivais e inicialmente ele foi muito bem recebido pelos festivais pequenos aqui no Brasil, que são festivais que têm dificuldade para se manter e que são realizados por pessoas que levam o cinema para cidades onde o cinema não existe. Jackson vai, que depois eu respondo mais uma parte.
The short film was screened since the beginning of 2019, so it was screened in some festival that was very nice. The presence of the film in the festival in this 2.5, almost 3 years. and it was interesting, the reception of the audience. And Gil, ela falou pouco da questão do norte de Minas, né, da região. Você chegou a ter a gente chegou a ter alguma exibição nessa região também, não?
Teve. Tipo esses festivais menorzinhos, como... eu não tô lembrando o nome agora, mas tipo do Mosca, mas teve alguns pequenininhos que levaram para o interior. Então, essas cidades que realmente não existe o cinema, enfim, as pessoas não têm acesso à linguagem, a gente conseguiu mandar o filme, já passou lá sim.
And about the topic of the region that we talked in the north of the state and other places similar in other states of Brazil. We also have some exhibitions of the film, and it's interesting that you talk, because it's a kind of just a background, this kind of the region and this kind of the woman and the presence of this manufacturer is the background of the story of the film, but it's also about some general topic of like some kind of natural cycle of life, almost, because of the character and something that is running, and it's kind of natural life, that something eating and reborn in this kind of thing. So it's like just to become a little bit of the story. So it's not only about the region, but it's about something more than that. And about the audience, it was interesting that it was a screening in some places that was little bit little cities that almost don't have cinema and festivals, and it was very nice to see in this kind of small places that keeps this kind of the natural that we start to think about in the short films.
E a gente fez parceria com algumas instituições que levaram o filme para as escolas públicas, né, aqui no Brasil. E aí o que eu acho que com a pandemia do ano passado para cá, o filme também foi aceito em muitos festivais online, então eu acho que isso também ampliou a visibilidade e tornou acessível para mais pessoas que também não têm condição de ir ao cinema, né?
And the short film was also screened in some public schools. That was become a partnership in some programs. That was very nice to get the short film with kids, you know, with the children, and in some of these other small cities, that was very interesting to show, to get this contact of the festivals, and to get the response of the people about the short film.
E para a gente foi curioso, porque não é um filme convencional, eu não sei se a gente pode falar, mas convencional de TV, né? A estética é muito diferente, e eu fiquei até surpresa com a receptividade aqui no Brasil, né? Porque não é uma coisa comercializável, digamos.
It's not a conventional film, like it's non-traditional. So we became surprised with some of the response of the audience, because in the beginning we didn't know how it will be, because it's a very symbolic. It has some metaphoric ways of life, so it was very interesting how the audience respond to the film, mainly in these places that we talk.
Okay. Thank you, Juliana and Jackson. Now we go to Adele. So Adele, what is the most interesting reaction or interpretation of your film so far?
Well, I have to think about it. Well, basically because it's talking about the connections between nature and humans, and it's a very common topic, so everyone can relate to this, obviously. Well, I think people just respond to it based on their like experiences and memories, and also since childhood memories are also in the center of the film. And I really love it when they just come up with similar experiences so the film reminds them to like some memories, and they start to talk about it. And I really love it because it's sort of why I like filmmaking and why I like sharing my films, because it sort of links people together from really different places, and I think it's really beautiful. And also because the film is talking about grief as well, and unfortunately many people experience grief. So this is the sad part, obviously, but also I feel that for someone it's part of a kind of therapy to like talk about their experience in relation with the film, so they can observe it a bit more objectively, and they feel that there are others out there in the world who get a similar or the same experience, and they don't feel that alone as they would feel otherwise. So I think I don't know, filmmaking is a communication process, and I really love that I can be a part of it, and I can create pieces that mean something for me, because obviously I've got a reason why I make them, but also others have their own interpretations, and these kind of create a new story out of the story that I told already. So yes.
Yes, I felt the same for some that you have mentioned. I was thinking when I watched your film, I was thinking like, man, if only my childhood diary was this cool, like this. Okay, so we almost running out of time. That will be a conclusion of our discussion tonight. I would like to say thank you for all of the filmmakers, for Anita, for Corey, Jackson, Juliana, and Adele for attending tonight's conversation and sharing so many things to the audience of CRAFT International Animation Festival. For everyone who is in the audience, thank you so much for coming. I hope well, ideally they will come when they already watch your film. So if you already watched their films and you like one of them, please vote, because there will be audience award. So that's all. Thank you very much, everybody. And for audience, we see in the next panel. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.